The forums.
The streamers.
The blogs.
The gamer. The streamers.
The tweets.
The streamers.
The role players.
The player.
The forums.
The bad.
The blogs.
The good.
The enthusiast.
The spotlight.
The spotlight.
The spotlight.
Hello, and welcome to The Spotlight on BlizzPro TV. We are here to light up your thoughts, feelings, and opinions on all things Blizzard. Doesn't matter if you're playing Diablo 3, WoW, Hearthstone, StarCraft 2, or if you're looking forward to some of their new stuff, we're here to get your opinions out there. And the first host that we have tonight for the news on the geeks is going to be the Mumble Queen herself, Sosa. Hey, Sosa, what's going on?
Hello. Welcome to the IRL Northrend. It's cold as you wouldn't believe, and I am currently caught the plague.
Oh no! Luckily, we it's not the type of virus we can all catch. So, and that wonderful, handsome voice you hear is our leader of the Free Thinkers. That would be Geeky. How you doing, sir?
Good. Hello, everybody.
And as for me, my name is Daro, or some people call me Liz. Hey, you works too. So whatever you want to do. But I'm just trying to keep up with all this circus business, and let's get the show started. So obviously, people are still talking about Hearthstone. It's gonna, get out of beta really at any point. We're just waiting for it. But people are still going insane over the beta keys. Geeky, what have you been hearing?
Oh, all sorts. People are still very upset that, they haven't got a key yet. It's been, I think, 4 months. I think the first wave went out in August. Mm-hmm. And people are, they feel entitled to these keys because, they've been playing since vanilla, or they played the original Warcraft 15, 20 years ago, and they should be at the top of the list. So I think it's interesting seeing how people kind of act like kids at Kmart when they don't get their toys, and so like I'm just kind of wondering when the open beta is going to be announced and released, because I think it'll make people happy, and I don't know what else they need to really tweak at this point. I'm sure they're stress testing still. Mm-hmm. But to be honest, I mean, they haven't done a patch for a while. So, I mean, I think they just need to go ahead and do it. Make it a Christmas present to all Blizzard gamers. Just say, hey,
nice.
It's the December 24th, at midnight and the 25th. It's going to be open beta. I think that'd be a great idea. So, just what I noticed.
What about you, Sosa? I know you were telling me some stuff you saw on the forums.
Yeah, just very similar to what Geeky was saying. Just people are like, I've been playing since Diablo 1. Why don't I have my beta key? And, this is BS. Why don't I have my key yet? I've been opted in for a while. But then again, there's also, they just put on the forums that there was an issue with the opt-in where it wasn't saving it. So you thought you were opted in, but it turns out you weren't. So they put out this big post about it. So to have people go and double check it and all of that. But, some people are still saying, well, it looks like mine still works, but I still don't have my key. Give me my key.
Yeah, It's ridiculous. I'm not sure, people just, I think, just want something new. Yeah. And it looks cool, and they've watched the streams, they've read the blog posts, they've heard the podcast talking about it. There's Hearthstone podcast now. BlizzPro, of course, has done a lot of articles on deck builds and things like that. And people are just scrambling. So if they still don't have one, I think what you were saying, that the, sense of entitlement,
mm-hmm.
And I think that's true for, anybody who's been playing a game for a long time. They think that they should get something in return. But at the same time, are you 5?
Yeah, right.
I just had a thought right now. But maybe it's not even a sense of entitlement. Maybe some of them are feeling more like a sense of exclusion.
Oh, I'm sure
because
that's
this
part
is
of
a
it.
Right.
pretty big beta. There's a lot of people getting beta keys, so they feel like they're kind of being, left out, and it kind of sucks.
Hmm.
I just randomly had that thought. It's amazing what cough syrup will do to you. But maybe we, I'm sure some of them, the people whining on the forums, I've been playing since, Diablo 1, why don't I have my key? That might be entitlement, but I bet there's some people out there who are like, can I get a key? Can I get a key? Because they feel excluded. All their friends have a key,
Right.
or
Hmm.
a lot of other people get a key. They've been opted in for forever. They've been applying to every, contest for a key that they can get, but they still haven't found it. So maybe it's that. Maybe they want to get in there because everyone else they know is in there. Why can't they get in there? So it could be
Right.
that a sense of exclusion as well. I was just thinking about that.
Well, true story. I opted in for the Hearthstone beta, as soon
Hmm.
as they allowed it, and I've been waiting, and nothing showed up in my email from Blizzard, and I was like, all right, that's fine, um, you know, but I just kind of kept waiting, and here and there, people would be giving away keys, and I would try for it, just to see if I could get one, but I wasn't really like, oh my god, I have to have a key, and then a few days ago, my husband got an email from Blizzard, and he got a beta key, and I was like, you just signed up like 3 weeks ago for it. I hate you.
RNG. RNG
But
is a control mistress.
I had fun watching him play, and seeing, how it opens up, and how it teaches you how to play, and everything else. And I thought it looked really good. And, I finally got myself a beta key. I finally won one. That's
Oh
why I'm
yeah.
expecting that it's going to go, open, tomorrow or something, because I just got one. No, but it's nice to actually be able to play it myself, and see for myself. And I think I'm going to be like Twiz, and I'm just going to be hopeless at building decks.
Well, something else too, and I noticed this when I was on Twitch last night looking around. I think people feel like they need to be a part of this game right now because already they're doing qualifiers, they're doing North American tournaments, they're doing tournaments all over the world for money. And the game's already generating a lot of buzz, and there's a lot of tournaments with some pretty good cash prizes out there. I think there was like a championship qualifier for like $5,000 last night
Hmm.
on Twitch. And I think that people want to get in on it now and become professional Hearthstone players now while they can, before the thousands of other people in the public are able to become a part of that, and the
Right.
whole audience is saturated, and it'll be harder to do that. So I think people want to get a little piece of the action now. I think that has something to do with it because Hearthstone's potential is limitless. It really is.
Oh yeah.
It's
Uh,
gonna be interesting.
well, and one of the things that we noticed, as watching my husband play, when he finally got to the point where he could start asking for matches against other players, the matchup system still has some bugs. He only has a basic deck, and he was getting matched up with people who had legendaries, and was just getting trounced, and he was getting very frustrated, and was just like, how is this fair? And he said, it's like way back in WoW, when you had the poor PvP matchups,
Hmm.
and you'd have your arena teams, and you'd get matched up with people who were completely decked out, and you were beginners,
Right.
and you would just get trounced. And it was no fun because you were just constantly getting beat down so fast, and you couldn't even earn points very fast.
Right.
So I think that might be something, that they still are looking to adjust, which will probably, I think, maybe they'll do before they turn it into a full open beta.
Hmm. I'm sure they have a checklist of things they need to do. I mean, I'm not sure what would be on that list, but Blizzard, they always have a master plan, and I'm sure that they have a date. I mean, I'm sure that it's set in stone, and barring anything major happening, I'm sure it's going to happen soon. But
Hmm.
I'm glad there's not a date because I kind of relate to like when they release like patch dates, and then like
Hmm.
something happens like the day before, like, oh, sorry, we're gonna have to wait a week. Like
Hmm.
I don't want to know until like the day before, like literally, like, hey, guess
Yeah.
what, tomorrow Hearthstone, and then it'd be like,
Right.
yeah, because then it's like very little can come in between those 24 hours. It's just
Right.
like, but I mean, if you have 2 weeks notice or a month's notice, then people are going to be waiting, and then like if it doesn't happen, they're going to be so disappointed. So I mean, I think it's smart in that regard.
Oh yeah, I
Yeah,
agree.
yeah.
Now, geeky. Thinking of smart moves, maybe not so smart moves. Why don't you tell us a little bit about Group Finder?
Oh gosh, Group
We could hear the
Finder.
QQs. We can hear the QQs now.
Yeah, I mean, so apparently, and correct me if I'm wrong, but in the next expansion, Group Finder is going to allow leaders to filter applicants. And it's become a pretty big topic on the forums lately. I don't know how I feel about it. I feel like Blizzard's getting like change drunk. Like they're changing so much in the game right now that like they they're trying to like do widespread changes. It's like the cataclysm of how the game operates, and not about the world itself. Like there's so many things that are changing. I don't know how I feel about that yet. I kind of want more information. It's kind of like what we talked about last week. Like we just need a little more clear and concise information before we can make a opinion. But I don't know, what did you guys think about it?
Sosa?
Well, from what I'm seeing, it sounds more like they're trying to bring it more into line, similar to what OQ has.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what OQ does is, you set criteria to get people in. So I think that's what they're doing is people like that in OQ so that way you're not getting that guy who just got off of Timeless Isle and has like 496s and wants to go in and flex the third wing of Siege of Orgrimmar. So I think that's what they're doing. I do hope they put a limit on it. Like say you can't demand a group of people that have a higher eye level than say your own. If you're building a group, or if you've got a pre-made group and you're trying to get more people, you can't demand people who have a higher eye level than say the average of the group. Just to prevent you getting all those people because some people have complained about OQ. They try to get a group and it's for a flex for the first wing and they're demanding like a 550 eye level.
Right.
Which is completely off the charts, silly. Like very few people with 550 are needing to flex wing 1 of Orgrimmar of Siege, but
right.
so I hope they put a limit on it. But it sounds to me like they're just trying to bring in the things that people really like from OQ, because that's pretty much what this is it's just the in-game version of OQ.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and I mean, we all remember the fiasco that was Gear Score.
Yeah.
And the demands on Gear Score for being able to, do a pickup rate and things
and
like
achievements.
That. Right.
Don't forget the achievements.
Checking achievements and stuff like that. I mean, one of the funniest videos I ever saw was one of Wowquender's things where he did his Gear Score video and trying to explain to poor Billy the Orc, how, Gear Score works. And then, Billy asking, well, how can someone with, 4 whatever at the time, the the max Gear Score was, get in, get this and not know what they're doing. And it's like, we'll never know. We just don't know.
Mm-hmm.
and I just have visions of Gear Score fiasco all over again with people crying foul and people finding ways to abuse it. I mean, we have a kick system now for groups, like LFRs and dungeon queues and things like that. But it's limited. You can only ask for so many kicks before the game says, I'm sorry, you have reached your limit, you can't do that. So I hope they have some type of limit, kind of like along the lines what you were saying, just to keep it from being abused.
Yeah
Because I can already hear people crying foul, and and I would hate to see Blizzard have to scramble to do some type of emergency patch because people are getting abusive.
I think it's going to come out. There's going to be abuse in one way. They're going to fix that. There's going to be abuse in another way. They're going to fix it. It's going to be a constant back and forth tug until it reaches an acceptable level. I mean, there's still people complaining about the kick system right now because some people, if they get kicked often enough, they can't get kicked anymore.
Right.
So, some people actually go in and they ask to get kicked, and they ask to get kicked, and they ask to get kicked.
Mm-hmm.
So that way they reach a point where they can't get kicked, so then they can go into LFR and they can coast through. They can't get kicked.
Mm-hmm.
So the only way people can get rid of them is to just disband entirely. So there's always going to be someone and people who find a way around stuff and find ways to abuse stuff. So hopefully they'll stay in the minority, but I'm feeling Blizzard's going to be, finding what they abuse this time, fixing it, finding what they abuse this time, fix it. So we'll have to it's going to take a little while to get better.
Well, and I mean, we all have seen, that there are jerks in any game. It doesn't matter what game it is. You're always going to find those people. And unfortunately, sometimes they tend to band together.
Yeah.
And so you end up with a group, particularly on maybe one server. I mean, it was really bad back in the old days of WoW, where we didn't have Group Finder or anything like that. And the only way you could get groups was, using trade chat or LFR chat.
Right.
And you got to know the people on your server, but that also meant you knew who the jerks were and who to avoid. And in some cases, if you had a really rough server,
right.
You really were kind of left with, well, crud, I got to transfer.
Yeah.
This isn't working.
Back then there wasn't transfers.
Right. Right.
You had to re-roll.
That's right. Re-roll a whole tune. So, we'll see. We'll see what they do. I think the idea is sound, just to make sure that you don't have the tag-alongs. It's one thing if you're running a group of like, say, guildies, and you're doing an LFR and you want to bring a couple people along that need the gear up and you don't mind carrying them. But, I can see the point of not wanting to have a bunch of people who can't do their job.
Yeah.
Right.
I was in an LFR a couple weeks ago, and it was just first part of Siege of Orgrimmar, and we had, I think it was like a third of our DPS couldn't go above 60k. And we just kept wiping on Nazgrim over and over and over.
Right.
I was in there for like 2.5 hours trying to just get that final boss done. It was horrible. Sure, I mean, people need to gear up, but at the same time, it's just like, it could have gone smoother. And maybe Group Finder will help with some of that to keep you from having too many people who aren't geared.
We'll find out. I mean, I'm sure it's going to be in the beta, and they're going to look at it closely along with everything else new that they're introducing. But I'm sure it's going to be tweaked. I doubt that the way it is on paper right now is exactly the same way it's going to be once it's released, many months from now. So we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, and but I think. With this information coming out, we talked about this last week, Sosa, about how they're just sort of piecing information out to us, and we're not able to get the whole picture right away. And so people get confused and upset because they don't understand what's going on. And so that really kind of brings up the question of, well, what do the community managers do?
Yeah, that's actually something that was really interesting. There was a post in the Diablo forums, and someone was complaining about a blue response, and the blue actually came back and responded and told people a little bit about what their job is and what they kind of do, which is very interesting, because I'll admit that even I get confused about what the blues do, like which blues are which, like how do you tell the difference? There's a lot of people who thought Ghostcrawler was a CM.
Right.
So, and what's the difference between a CM and a designer and stuff like that? And it's a really interesting post, and it was by Nevelistus. Yes, Nevelistus of the one of the Diablo CMs. And they were saying, like, some of the things that they do is the social media work, aka Twitter, the forums, stuff like that. Doing events, like the Design a Legendary thing, which, by the way, check out twizcast.com to find out when they're having their live broadcast of the Design a Legendary with the designers. So definitely look into
Oh yeah,
that.
that's gonna be
That's
epic.
That'll
another
be
thing
good.
that's something else that the CMs helped set up. That was a lot of work. They were coordinating with the other community teams, like the World of Warcraft CMs, the Hearthstone CMs, the StarCraft CMs, all of them to work on everything all together and just like creating stuff and, you know, finding out what the community's saying. They spend a lot of time reading over everything and just finding out. It's very similar to what we do. They're finding out what the people are talking about and figuring out what needs to be done. So it was a really, really interesting thing to see. It's really neat to find out what these people are like. I almost want to sit down and interview a CM one of these days.
Oh yeah.
Maybe we can aim for that, because I think that's the thing, is not many people know what these people do. They think they're just sitting there reading the forums all day. They don't know about the meetings. They don't know about all the things that they're organizing. They don't know about all the behind the scenes stuff and how the CMs interact with the design team and everything like that. So it's an interesting question and something I'd almost like to look into a little bit more. So
Now, Geeky, do you think that this particular blue post might have been brought on because of the things that like someone like Ghostcrawler did?
It's possible. I think that people have always had a misconception about how Blizzard's hierarchy works. I remember when I first started playing, I thought that anyone that's not a player like myself is at the same level, and so I think some people still do believe that, like, like, oh, if I ticket a GM in game, obviously they're, buddy buddy with, Chris Metzen. And
Right.
like, because Chris Metzen's gonna get my single ticket and he's gonna fix everything. Like, it doesn't work that way. And I think people should be allowed to know that information, to know the structure. And I did like this blue post a lot. I think that it was really unintended. I mean, I'm sure that no one thought that they were gonna get that post in that thread.
Right.
And I mean, if you look at everything before that post, it's like, pretty normal stuff, and then it's like he just dropped some knowledge. Just dropped knowledge on the entire forum. So I thought it was really cool.
Oh yeah, definitely. Zed Viseri in our chat room said that he thinks we may be being prepared for a less interactive Ghostcrawler replacement.
That's big shoes to fill.
Mm-hmm.
well,
Definitely.
you got to remember, Ghostcrawler wasn't a CM. He was the lead system designer.
Right.
He was one of the guys in the back room toying with the code and things like that. The fact that he spent so much time talking to us was actually far beyond what most people have done, and that brought out some of the other people. So yeah, it's possible that the CMs are letting him know what they're doing, and maybe to emphasize the fact that the CMs are going to be more of the go-to now, because the next lead system designer might be more focused on, designing the systems and stuff like that, rather than spending Twitter time. Like,
Right.
Ghostcrawler made that effort. The other guy might be more focused on other stuff. So, so, you never know. And like someone's pointing out, I think it's Reb, is it could be as much junk as Ghostcrawler received. Most people are going to miss him and going to give the replacement even more junk because he is the replacement,
Right.
if he doesn't match up to Ghostcrawler standards. So you never know what's going to happen. If it's going to be a lose-lose. I almost feel for this guy or girl. It's going to be you can't match Ghostcrawler. You can't be the same. But is it going to be more? Is it going to be less? And if he's more communicative, people are going to be like, you're not working on the systems. If he's less communicative, well, Ghostcrawler did this. So,
Right.
But yeah, I think the CMs might be pushing themselves out a little more to, say that we're the face that the community sees. So it could be that. That could be interesting. But I mean, we're still going to have some of the guys behind the scenes like Bashiok and Metzen. Some of these other guys, they've really put themselves out there more. So I have a feeling they're even going to come. I have a feeling that even the next guy is going to come out a little bit.
Well, it's a precedent's been set.
Yeah, definitely.
And the existing devs have followed in Ghostcrawler's wake before even Ghostcrawler left. To get out there and say some stuff and be a face out there that people can relate to. And now that someone as interactive as Ghostcrawler's gone, you're right, Geeky, that it's really important that the actual community managers step forward
Yeah.
and say, hey, this is what we're supposed to be doing. This is who we are, and this is kind of how it works. Can we tell you, the deep dark secrets of every little thing that goes on in every cubicle? No.
Hmm.
But, just to keep us informed and give us that face, that go-to that we're used to having.
Yeah, and I think the timing of Ghostcrawler's departure was perfect because I mean anything before BlizzCon would have been devastating to the community, and we're now in a period, with, especially with Warcraft, which is where I'd say a significant bulk of the player base is in the Blizzard universe. This is the lull. This is the calm before the storm. This is the 6 month stretch where all you do is run Siege of Orgrimmar over and over for weeks on end and gear up alts and get your heirlooms off Garrosh. This
and
is
beg
perfect.
for Hearthstone beta keys.
Right, and yeah, and all that. I mean, there's nothing else really big going on besides, waiting for the beta to come out. We're waiting for Hero stuff to come out. It's a big waiting period right now over the holidays, and I think it gives this new person time, come in, get situated, and then you just iron out all the wrinkles. Because if this would have happened closer to Warlords coming out, I think it would have been pretty devastating or potentially devastating. So, I mean, they have lots of time
with stuff.
Right, and it is interesting that this is coming from Diablo as opposed to Warcraft side, because Diablo's got their stuff coming out, and people are clamoring for that too.
Right.
And like you said, there is a lull. Everyone's kind of in this holding pattern, waiting for things to be released or opened up, waiting for the next little nugget of information to drop. What's going to be data mined once they're able to data mine stuff, that sort of thing. So, yeah, it's very possible that the new person is going to get, almost a community lynching of sorts, just because, there's nothing else to do.
Yeah,
well,
you guys, Ghostcrawler was Warcraft though. Like there is no Ghostcrawler for Diablo.
Right.
So, the CMs are kind of the go-to kind of Ghostcrawler people there. So they could just be clarifying. But yeah, a lot of people think that Ghostcrawler was Blizzard. He wasn't. He was World of Warcraft. So he didn't have anything to do with StarCraft or Diablo. Right. Maybe helped a tiny bit with Hearthstone, but not really anything. But, it's going to be so I guess because we're Warcraft people, we're really focused on World of Warcraft, but we keep forgetting that there is no Greg Street for Diablo and stuff like that. There was just the CMs.
Right.
So,
well, I mean, it's not like each game is like its own force field, like there's a lot of overlap. I mean, there are definitely some exclusive StarCraft 2 players, there's some exclusive D3 players, and so on. But I mean, there's a lot of overlap, and I think that Ghostcrawler is bigger than the Warcraft game. I think that he's just as big as Metzen. I mean, Metzen's big in the Blizzard universe. I think Ghostcrawler is too. And I saw pictures all over Twitter of people who don't play Warcraft are getting their picture taken with Ghostcrawler anyway, just to get their picture taken with Ghostcrawler. So I think that he's still very influential, regardless of whatever game he is accredited to.
Oh, of course, yeah. It's he made a name for himself, and he was famous, or in some people's eyes maybe infamous. For what he did. And it didn't matter what game you played. Everybody did know who he was. Everyone knows who Chris Metzen is. That sort of thing. We'll just have to see what happens, and I hope the community can be kind to the new person who steps forward. They're to move off of WoW for a little bit here. Of course, everyone's... Again, maybe because, we've been waiting for it a long time, and, we're kind of starting that lull period. They released at least the names of the actors that have been cast in the World of Warcraft movie. There is no working title that's been released. There's nothing about which characters are going to be played or even what time period this is going to take place in.
Actually, I think they said what time period it's going to be. They said it's going to be orcs versus humans, so it sounds
Right.
like First or Second War.
Right.
So
Yeah,
that's
something
what
like
I'm
that,
hearing
yeah.
is the general consensus.
Right, but there's still no 100% release of, well, this is where we're going to be. It's all kind of speculation right now.
Right.
But they released some names, and of course, everybody, went to IMDb or Wikipedia or whatever, to find out what else, these people have done if they weren't familiar with them.
Mm-hmm.
And everyone's been speculating on what character that could they be playing, who they thought they should be playing. And of course, before even this announcement, um, there was tons of people doing, the wish list of actors and actresses for a WoW movie, who should play which character, and arguments about it and that sort of thing. But the one thing that I did notice of the things that they released is that they didn't announce Michelle Morrow, and she's huge in the WoW community. I mean,
Right.
she's been on several podcasts. It's very known that she's a guild leader. She plays a hunter. She's actually taken archery lessons, trying to, make herself even more fit to play Sylvanas, because that's her dream role.
Right.
And there's been a big movement, almost a petition style movement on Facebook for, Michelle Morrow as Lady Sylvanas. And they didn't announce Michelle Morrow, and I've heard some screaming in the community as to, well, why wouldn't they list her if they're thinking about casting her?
Because Sylvanas isn't in the movie.
Well, there's that, yeah. But I mean, I think the bigger picture is like, okay, she's a personality. I mean, if you want to call her that, I guess. But she's a personality in the Warcraft world, and I mean, if you pick her, why don't you pick this person? Like you can't. I feel like they need to keep it above the local scene, if that makes sense. Like go after the professional actors. I mean, I'm not saying that she's not professional in any sense, but go after well-known people, get them in there. Instead of picking out of the personalities within the player base, because I think some people are going to get really alienated if you pick someone's favorite over someone else's favorite. I think it's a good call. I mean, I have nothing against Michelle Morrow. I'm pretty sure I was in her guild at one point over the last 9 years. I don't even know, but yeah, I'm not too upset about the fact that they didn't announce her, to be honest.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. Well, and people are talking about it, in the chat room right now, and yeah, she's. I mean, Michelle Morrow is known as a final girl for horror movies. That's the stuff that a lot of the stuff she's done. And not that makes her not qualified to be in a movie of the production value that I figure WoW is going to be. World of Warcraft is going to have a pretty big budget. Just to give you, more of that immersive feeling if Blizzard doesn't want to cheat themselves over an experience. And if Sylvanas is not in the first movie, well, of course, maybe they wouldn't look at her because that's what she's campaigning to be.
Yeah. Well, Unlimited Black in the chat room just said the actors they've announced so far are there to build buzz. It's possible she could get in later, but they've just announced people who are a little, more known in order to get the excitement going, in order to get the people going, have people say, oh my God, did you hear so-and-so is going to be in it? If people are going to hear, oh, Michelle Morrow is going to be in this. Well, who's Michelle Morrow?
Right.
I mean, if there's someone like me who doesn't watch a horror movie at all, wouldn't have any clue who the heck they are. So,
right.
They're releasing some better well-known names with a little more behind them and a little more out there to let people know, and people are going to be like, oh my God, I love this guy in that, and oh my God, I loved her in that. So they're going to be like, yeah, it's gonna get them that, that publicity that everyone's going to be, talking about it, and yeah.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Well, and two, I'm sure that Blizzard wants this movie to appeal to more than just WoW players.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's going to be the whole let's have some director come in and make it accessible to more than one group of people. It's the Abrams approach, just like how
Right.
Star Trek worked out. I mean, it was pretty successful, you know.
Hmm.
But
Yeah. But it's I want to see the movie succeed. Um, I'm not going to be upset if they do or don't cast, whoever. Um, there are certain actors and actresses that I absolutely love, and I, would just be like, ooh, they'd be a really good, whoever in the movie. But I'm also not a movie producer. I'm not a
yeah,
director. I'm
right,
not a casting agent. So
right.
there's a lot to it, more so than just, oh, they have the look.
I would agree with
Hmm.
that, and I like what Reb said about the fact that Michelle Morrow doesn't come off as being like British or Australian. You know, she's very American, and
Hmm.
if when it comes to fantasy, if you look at big fantasy titles, Lord of the Rings, um, Game of Thrones, most of the time those movies, TV shows, or whatever, they're very like British heavy
Hmm.
or very
Harry Potter.
non-American.
Hmm.
They're very non-American, and I like that about those types of movies and TV shows. And not to say that she couldn't learn an accent. I mean, it's
Hmm.
just. But I mean, if you look at her picture, and you see how the film quality, you're just like, I don't know. So I just noticed that in the chat room. I thought it was a good point.
Yeah, it is. I mean, I personally, I love horror movies, and I like Michelle Morrow. I think she's a great actress as far as what I've seen her do. I can't make a judgment though on how she would do in a more dramatic role, because I haven't seen it.
Right.
It's not to say she couldn't do it. I mean,
Hmm.
obviously, she's gotten parts in movies, so she has to be at least, some level of decent actress. Um, but again, it all comes down to what is Blizzard ultimately looking for? What do they want to put out?
Right.
And they're going to hire people to make this happen, that they can feel that they can trust to give them the vision that they want, to sell their name.
Right. Yeah. It's true, and they need to focus on the vision and not worried about other things like budget and stuff like that, because budget doesn't really mean a
Hmm.
whole lot in terms of movie quality. I mean, yeah,
Hmm.
it allows you to have special effects, allows you to be able to buy this actor and that actor, but when it comes down to it, look at The Lone Ranger. That movie
Right.
had a huge budget and they lost a ton of money.
Right.
So
Ooh,
let's
what a
just
bomb.
let's just focus on making this a Warcraft story. Let's put the time
Hmm.
into it. Let's not worry about all that other garbage, because
Right.
movies have done that before and they've tanked. So
Yeah.
Right. Well, and again, it's just more speculation. Right now, it seems like that's all Blizzard in general has been giving us, no matter what game
mhm,
we play,
right.
or what's going on. It's all about speculation at this point. So maybe that's what something Blizzard should release for Christmas is the uh, Blizzard Entertainment version of the game Speculation.
Hmm.
They would probably make bank on that. Um, good party game, right?
Yeah.
So what we're going to do now is we're going to move forward because we got some emails this week.
Yes.
So we're very excited about that. So thank you, everybody who sent in emails or sent in tweets. So for Dear Gamers, we asked what makes a good guild? How do you find one? And that sort of thing. And so we were asking for people's opinions and people's thoughts on that. And to be honest, this was prompted by something that Twiz actually wrote an article for Blizz Pro about, finding that home in WoW. But it could also apply to, finding a group in any other game. Um, so, Sosa, why don't you start off with giving us the first email?
Okay, sure, no problem. This is from a person by the name of Kern. I guess I can't say gentleman or lady. I'm not sure, but
It's a guy.
it's a guy? Okay, so Kern, the gentleman Kern. He sent in this. Hey there, my name's Kern, and I've played WoW for 7 straight years and was a guild master for over 5 of those years. Rose tweet alerted me to your question on Twitter about what makes a good guild and how to go about finding one. In my opinion, a good guild consists of a few different things. 1, a friendly, non-hostile environment in guild chat, on the guild forums, on guild on guild voice chat services and during guild events. This doesn't mean that people can't be serious, but it means that people are treated with respect, and it means that people aren't made uncomfortable by sexist, racist, homophobic, or otherwise prejudicial talk. Even if someone doesn't mean anything by it, saying something like, I totally raped that guy, instead of I totally wrecked that guy, is hostile to women in particular, in his opinion. Further, if someone does start using language like that, they need to be smacked down by the officers immediately, or other guildies if there's no other officer around, to help preserve the desired atmosphere. The goal of the atmosphere is to be fun and relaxed, with periods of concentration during guild events, but a place where everyone feels included and welcome, happy to be a part of the group.
And that's very true.
It is.
It's having that level of conversation that has that level of maturity to be mindful of people.
Yeah.
So what else did he say?
Number 2, a steady leadership that listens and responds to its members. This doesn't mean that there are never officers or even GM changes, but it means that even with the change in leadership, things don't get changed for the sake of change. It means that the leaders are in touch with their guild members and take the time to listen to what their guild members have to say. It means that the leaders try to anticipate how the future changes will affect their members and address those concerns. If they're wrong about their members' reactions, a good leadership team will change their course of action. In a brief example, using the EPGP loot system, my old guild ran into trouble in Firelands in particular, with people hoarding their points for tier items. Substantial hoarding breaks the system, as it's meant to allow people to win loot often, assuming everyone is spending their points freely. My old guild decided at one point that enough was enough. We were going to switch to a Suicide Kings system for tier loot. The officers were decided on this, and we announced it to the raid group, and our forums exploded. It's clear that the raid team was not going to be okay with this, and so we revisited the decision and made adjustments to the decay in order to try and combat the hoarding problem, and warned the others that if these adjustments didn't affect the hoarding issue, we were going to have to look into the other solutions, including the Suicide Kings method. In this example, we figured out what we thought would be best for the guild. The guild disagreed to a ridiculous degree, and we came up with another solution. We were responsive to the negative guild members because it was such an overwhelming negative response.
Well, right. It's you have to look at what people are wanting to do. You can't set up a loot system that everybody doesn't want to do, because then nobody's going to want to raid.
I guess you just can't switch things in the middle of something. People are going to react to that, but you've got to make it. If it doesn't fix the problem, you have to let them know that there will be changes made if they do not start changing their attitude about the problem. Like, if you're going to break the system's got to change. So that was probably what they needed to do, is they should have just said, if the system doesn't change, we're going to change it.
Right.
So instead of having all the backlash, but and he goes on. Number 3, an environment filled with people who want to improve. No one wants to join a raiding guild that never progresses. No one wants to join a PvP guild that never wins a single arena match or rated battleground. The key is consistent improvement. You can have good weeks and then bad weeks, but as long as your team is learning, even during the bad weeks, your team is improving. As long as the team still wants to improve, they will. And improvement will eventually lead to success, progression, and wins.
Well, right. You've got to have everybody on the same page. If you're billing yourself as a progression rating guild, you've got to be able to back that up with the achievements, with the content, with getting the gear. And too often I've seen people try to tout themselves as progression raiders, particularly in Kata. People would always shout, they're looking for more people. For their raid teams, they would spout out what boss they were on.
Right.
And that sort of thing is an advertisement to say, hey, this is where we're at. And it became a big competition for trying to get people who were looking to switch raid teams or switch guilds.
Yeah. But I mean, it's also, you've also got to look at it. If someone wants to join a fun guild that does, say, fun raids, and all of a sudden your raid leader decides they want to be major progression, so everyone needs to start upping their game and download all these add-ons and start bringing in maximum food and get everything reforged. You've got to stay consistent, and you've got to agree with that. If you're touting yourself as a fun guild, you can't all of a sudden say, everyone needs to be on top of their game, progression, we're going to be in the top 10 all of a sudden.
Yeah, because who wants to raid with someone that's mean, and is like a bully. It's not very fun.
No.
Yeah.
So what's the last point that he makes here, Sosa?
A similar mindset. I'm not saying everyone has to be identical, but for someone to really enjoy themselves in a guild, one should seek out a guild with a similar mindset of their own when it comes to the game. If I am a player who takes their job within a raid very seriously, then I'm not going to get along with a guild that's full of people who constantly die in raid and say, lol, my bad, even without even improving their performance. On the flip side, I've been in a guild where the players were excellent, but the social side didn't exist at all. People would log in for a raid for 4 hours, then log off, and that was it. And that wasn't the right place for me, despite the successes we had raiding together. As for how to find a guild, one of the best ways is to post in the official WoW recruitment forum and be very specific in your desires. Explain what you're looking for, explain your availability and time zone, and you could soon have a dozen replies from guilds seeking your spec and class. The best part of this is that you get to sift through all the offers people are making. Take the time to go through each viable option to see which one feels right for you. During Wrath, I left a guild and had 2 guilds I was looking at possibly joining. I was leaning towards one, but then interviewed with the second, and that's who I ended up going with, based on the strength of the organization and personality of the guildmaster. I joined them even though they were several heroic bosses behind my own progress in Heroic IC 25, because I felt they were a better fit personality-wise. Awesome question. Hope my wall of text didn't crit you to death, Kern.
It's going along with that last point in particular. In our chat room, Reb and Desarius 1160, Zedvisary. I mean, everyone. It's that final point is important. It does boil down to attitude.
Yeah, definitely. In all aspects of the game, I mean, attitude is incredibly huge.
Yeah.
Yeah, you've got to have a good attitude about it, no matter what. But yeah, that was Kern. He's at Kern Mog, MOGH, KURN MOGH, on Twitter. He does some good stuff. He has a lot of good critiques in general about a lot of different games, not just Blizzard stuff. So yeah, check him out if you want to see some interesting opinions. So we do have a second email, and this is from Joe Higgins. That's at HigginsJoe72, and that's says it's too short on Twitter, but over 8 years, I had to redo my WoW account. For the big fact, I started it when I was in the forces and was posted overseas. I was recovering in the U.S. hospital. I was wounded in line of duty. The U.S. Marine was so he was looking at the armory. Started to chat up this guy about it and then got into the game. And it was through him that I got into a guild. Then when I came back home to Canada, I had to rebuy the game for the fact that I was no longer in Europe. So I started to walk around Stormwind asking if any from the guild I was on. Then Horde had attacked Goldshire. I was a healing pally, so I ran to see if I could help. And after 30 minutes of the battle, I ended up getting a guild invite from the guild who was there fighting. Let's see. It was great. We ran dungeons and queued up for PvP battlegrounds. Back in those days, it was marks from the BG that you needed to have so many of each battleground to buy the old 60 PvP sets. Then the realm I was on in Dentgar started to die off. The guild I was in to keep up to the PvP raids we did, Team and Cross River combined, was left of 6 guilds. It worked for 6 months, and then infighting started and it died. I've been there, done that with guilds, just civil war. It's never bodes well. Then I got asked by an old guildie if I could heal a few runs of Outland and Hellfire and a few others. I said sure, and then found myself on his guild's vent and then got into a raid later that night, and I was guild invited to ODA. Mr. George, you can see the full spelling of the name. Sad to say, what was a great guild has in the last year or more started to drop off the guild radar because we lost the core raid group. Then they took Blizz up on the half sail and we rolled Horde, and with my job I was not here when it had been, and now tried to breathe life back into guild, but it's one but the one that made it great have taken off and left to another server. For me, what made that guild great was the GM took the time to run dungeons, or his top-ranked players ran new recruits to see if they would be a good fit for us. If you needed mats or help getting your first epic piece back in the old BC Wrath of Lich King era, the guild would pitch in to help. I had a few alts just to have the gathering or trade skills to help make some of the gear. Then when WoW added the guild achievements, we would form up groups to get stuff done. I just wish they had added stuff to the guild perks to make it so that you would want to, continue running stuff.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, and unfortunately that does happen. It doesn't matter how good the guild is. If something goes with your server, server starts to die off for whatever reason, or, you have to take a break because of real life, and then you come back, 4 months later or 6 months later, and suddenly your guild is no longer there, or has moved servers. Now that, Blizzard is allowing that type of thing, come back on and poof, where is everybody? And that can be rough. Plus if you get, core raid, people get upset or whatever. I've been in a guild where that happened. A bunch of people got fed up with the lack of progression. It wasn't going fast enough for them. And they said, you know what? We're going to take our toys and go somewhere else. And they made their own guild.
Right.
And that was a blow.
Yeah, definitely. I think guilds, I mean, the officers and the GM make up the core, like the belief system for a guild. And I think that, I've been a part of many guilds, many takeovers, many splits, many mergers, and it's something that has to be constantly in check, and for guilds to survive, especially between expansions, especially during the downtimes of expansions. I think that, like I said earlier, we're in that kind of that dead zone period, and it's important that guilds, stay active. They are helping one another, players are sticking around, helping the overall group progress further on as a guild. And I really like this message quite a bit.
Yeah, I have been in I usually average about 2 to 3 guilds per expansion, just because something happens every time. The guild falls apart, we join a new guild, that guild either merges with another one and we don't get along and we end up leaving. A bunch of people decide they're switching to another server, so we go with them and we switch to another server or to the other faction. I've played both Alliance and Horde for a long time.
Same here.
My current guild is actually the one I've probably been in the longest, having joined it during Cataclysm in the Dragon Soul days, and I'm still here at the end of Mists of Pandaria, so this is the longest I've been with a solid raid team, a solid guild, and I think the main thing is consistency. They haven't changed what they're about the entire time.
Right.
Like I brought up earlier, how a fun guild and a fun raid team and all of that all of a sudden wanted to be progression, and you had to install stuff. This was back when add-ons took like 10 minutes to install, and I didn't want to run with them, and all of a sudden if I wanted to dungeon run or do a raid or something, I had to install like 8 add-ons. No thanks. So I ended up leaving that guild because it no longer fit what I wanted. But that's the big thing, is they've got to have consistency. You've got to have consistency. Like, you can't constantly expect your guild or your raid team to conform to what you want it to be. You have to find the one that fits for you, but your guild has to accept that this is what we've put down and this is what people are joining us for. We can't go and change that on a whim.
Mm-hmm.
So even with new officers or a new GM, that has to stay consistent.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you've got to keep that main core of what made your guild, or else that's really what's going to kill you, I find.
Yeah, well, I mean, the last guild I was with before I joined Twisted Empire, it was great. We did good rating, good group of people, and then some people left, and they took, a chunk of people with them, and then we got more people added to the guild, and it got to where there was more and more people that I didn't know who they were. And then I stopped rating because work schedules changed, and suddenly I would get on and I would be like, hi, and nobody would respond. And there'd be like 30 people online, but not a single person would even acknowledge my existence. And that's when I knew it was time to head out.
Yeah, guilds can be clicky. It's very, very
They can.
clickish. Or
Yeah,
inclusive.
and when you bring in a bunch
or
of
not
new
inclusive.
people, yeah.
Yeah. It's finding that balance, and it's tough. Like how do you shop for a guild? Like it's not like being in the produce section of a grocery store and you're like feeling up melons or you're feeling up vegetables. Like, oh, this is good. Like this is gonna be a good fit. Like how, besides going on the forums and looking there, like how do you find a good guild? Like because most of the time those advertisements on the forums are for rating.
Yeah.
There's very few posts where it's like, hey, come have fun. And if there is a post like that, usually it gets flamed to death by people because like the forums are supposed to be for official raid business and take your fun and go home because we don't want to hear. So
Hey
it's like,
man, rating is serious business.
yeah, apparently it is. So like it's just how do casual people find guilds? I mean, do they just, roulette, the server list and wherever their finger stops, hey, I'm going to be on Thrall. That's, I always wanted to know. I never remember how I've picked my first server 9 years ago. I have no idea. So.
My husband and I picked the server we joined at random. It was the top of the list for being a low pop because we didn't want to deal with long queues because we had come from EverQuest, so we were used to the long queue thing, so we were trying to avoid it at that point, and we just picked the iTrig server. Ended up making some friends, did some guild stuff there, had a good time, and then we took a bit of a break at some point, and when we came back, everything was totally different. We, of course, weren't in a guild anymore.
Right.
And then we had a buddy who was like, hey, come over to my server. So at that point, we were able to transfer our tunes. And so we did. And then there was, later we moved not only to another server after that, but we also changed to Horde side. Then we went back to Alliance. Now we're back to Horde. And I found Twisted Empire just because I was listening to Twizcast. And I liked the podcast, and I liked Twiz because I knew him from Twitter.
Right.
And I'd known him for a while as a Twitter buddy. So I thought, well, let me give it a shot. So I made a level 1 tune just to check out the guild, and everybody was really cool. So I said, you know what, it's worth the money to pay for yet another transfer. And I think a lot of people do find guilds that way because a lot of podcasts do talk about the guilds that they're in or that they run.
Right.
And if you enjoy their podcast and you enjoy what they're, the way that they are, that's definitely a way to check it out. I mean, do what I did. Make a level 1 character. Join the guild. Listen to the chat. See how people are. See if it's really worth it for you to either, keep that new tune and bring it all the way up to max, or pay the money to actually transfer your character over.
Yeah, I think for me, I am kind of a realm surfer, and my history, my transfer history on my account page is long and reflects lots of dollars spent over years. But I kind of get anxious about going on a new server because like I have no problem making a level 1 and trying out and seeing how the atmosphere of the realm is or how a guild fits. But then I always try to think like a month from now, like, all right, I'm going to be 90, hopefully, I mean, is this still going to be fun? You know, like, is this still going to be a good fit? Am I going to have fun with these people? You know, 9 times out of 10, I delete before I get to level 10 because, you know, there's certain factors that I look at and I realize, hey, you know, this isn't going to be fun. And I'm paying
Right.
$15. I'm paying with money and with time to invest into a character. I want to make sure that that investment is going to pay off in the end with, you know, entertainment and enjoyment. So I think some people are in my corner on that one because, I mean, it's, you know, it's tough. It's tough to find a good realm, good people.
That is true. That is very true.
I've never gone searching for my own realm. I've always moved because of friends. I started playing WoW shortly after Vanilla had launched because my boyfriend was playing the game and I'd played the beta on his computer. And he got me to play and I joined his server and his guild. Then that guild merged with another guild, and we didn't like them, so a bunch of us, including my boyfriend and I, moved to Horde. Found a new server. We moved to Horde. We found a guild together. We joined the guild. The guild was fun. The guild changed. We switched to another server and to Alliance again. And we found some new friends, blah, blah, blah. Boyfriend stopped playing for a little while. New friend said, hey, I've got these friends on this server. Let's go over there. We go over to that server. That friend stops playing. The other guild starts slowly dying because it's a quiet time and no one's playing in a guild of like 15 people and I'm getting bored. Another friend says, hey, why don't you come back to this server? I've got this fun guild. Join that guild. That guild, well, a bunch of people end up leaving it and ended up building Twisted Empire. So I joined Twisted Empire shortly after it built. So I've been there for quite some time now.
Right.
Like I said, it's consistency and friends who brought me in. Friends who always bring me into a guild and then abandon me there. Every time.
Well, sorry, so you're stuck with some of us, so deal with it. Geeky, we got some tweets as well to our question. Why don't you let us know who responded?
Out of Beta said, a welcoming atmosphere, feeling of mutual success and accomplishment. The mentality of, you know, we killed the boss instead of whoever did the highest DPS as opposed to that person. So I thought that was really good. And then Louis Out from Thug Mentality on Bleed Hollow US said, love is key and the love of the game for the right reasons, maturity, awareness, or awesomeness actually, but awareness too, you know, I'll just throw that in there. It's my 2 cents. And then Baby Dolly, excuse me, said that inclusive and not clicky, chatty. I use trial and error, join, stay a while, leave if it's not what I want. So I thought that all 3 of those were good tweets.
Yes.
All very different perspectives, but on the positive side, which is great. So thank you for those tweets, guys.
Yes, thank you everybody who responded to our question, whether it was email or tweet, or as you guys are responding in the chat room. You know, really appreciate it. You know, and we want to do more of this for you guys, for the community. I mean, that's what we're here for. So we'll be hopefully starting up the Spotlight blog on WordPress soon to address a single concern or question we see that's popped up in the community, something that people are really talking about. It's just going to be a once a week thing. We don't want to bog ourselves down too much with writing too many blog journals, because we want to devote the time to the show and you guys. But we do definitely want to hear from you. You know, so keep us in mind when you have a good thought about anything Blizzard. Doesn't matter what game it is. I know we've kind of been a little hyper focused on WoW the past couple episodes, and it's not that we don't want to talk about other games. It's just some of the stuff that's really been on the radar has been WoW related. So again, I think I would just want to say, you know, thank you to the chat room. Thank you to all of our listeners, all of our followers on Twitter. You know, please just keep sending us in stuff. It's spotlight@blizzpro.com is our email address. You can also find all of the great articles on anything Blizzard at www.blizzpro.com. Our particular podcast Twitter handle is @SpotlightP, and the WordPress blog is going to be spotlightpodcast.wordpress.com. Sosa, what would you like to leave us with this evening?
I will see you guys all later. Have fun. Remember, Sosa loves you, and hopefully, it sounds like I'm going to be the next spokesperson for NyQuil.
Yay! No, not yay. What was it Dennis Leary said? Big N, little y, big, whatever, Q. I'm not going to say the word. Geeky, what about you? What would you like to part with us?
I don't know. I think I'm gonna go with try a different class in World of Warcraft this week, if possible. I know I'm gonna try a DK because I've never been able to level 1 to 90 after all these years. So try something new, I think is the message I'm gonna go with, because you never know. You might find something that you'll love that you just never know existed.
Well, and BlizzPro does have the Edge that can tell you everything
That's
you know
right.
about any class. So
That's right.
check them out too, and get some ideas and check it out. I've been somehow getting convinced to try an Elemental Shaman, so I think I'll be rolling that.
God
next.
help you.
Yeah, I know.
It's fun.
As for me, just keep on trucking, guys. Don't be afraid to express your opinions, but just try and remember, be courteous, be clear, be concise when you are giving your opinions. It's okay to be upset about something, but, try not to, be mean about it, or as Reb said on Twizcast the other night, it's no douche canoes. And with that, we will say good night.
Night.